everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of The Grow Show. Believe it or not, we are in episode 7 dealing with the evolved framework.
Yeah, listen, the more we get into this season, the more I'm like, whoa, this is some heavy stuff.
Heavy stuff.
This episode, I was up early this morning just going through it, and I'm like, wow, this is
some heavy stuff.
There's some deepness.
We're preaching to ourselves first
Yes,
before
for
we
sure.
even get to the audience.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this episode,
Episode 7.
Yes. Not any other number.
Yes.
Is, are you humble or just plain small?
Whoa.
Are you humble or just plain small? Now, we are on the O in evolved, which speaks to ownership, right? What it means to be evolved, it means owning your value, owning your identity, all of that stuff. And usually, when it comes to owning your value, this whole concept of humility comes up and playing small. This is an episode that I'm excited to talk about. So let's talk about being humble.
Yeah.
When you've been in church for a long time, and we talk in church, and I know we don't often talk church like this.
There's some kingdom in this.
On these episodes, but I hear this concept of humility so much, especially in my work as a coach. You know, I encourage people to own their value and own their rates and own this. And this conversation around, I don't want to be too out there and all of that stuff. And I think it comes from this humility word that's in the Bible.
And even before that, I'm going to say babes. Even
You
before
could say
that,
babes.
I can say babes, yeah. Even before that, I grew up hearing self-praise is no recommendation. So you grow up hearing that you ain't really supposed to praise yourself and own your truth and your authority. Let somebody else say it.
Yes.
And so now we call ourselves being humble.
I come right in talking about own your value.
Yes, and so we call ourselves being humble, and so we don't get to speak about, like, what am I good at? What is my authority? What is the thing that I know I am so gifted at that I could do that in my sleep?
Yeah.
And if I'm talking about it, it come across as if I'm bragging, I am boastful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so
and I want to read this because this is such an important point as we get started in this topic. There's a fine line between humility and hiding. And many of us are on the wrong side of it, calling it spiritual when it's really playing small.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into this conversation. Now, I love that you said you started off growing up and that was the conversation. I think, of course, a lot of us in the church, we have heard it. A lot of Caribbean people also has heard it. You know, this concept of being too pompous. I had a client who talked about, hey, I don't want to be too pompous and all of that stuff. But let's go to the root of this. And that is from the Bible that speaks to humility.
Yes.
Right? There is a scripture in the Bible that says, you know, do not humble yourself or God will, and let God exalt you and all of that stuff. So we tend to assume that being humble means to hide.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or we tend to assume humble is, okay, I'm going to not speak about myself. I'm not going to speak about my greatness. I'm not going to speak about this. I'm not going to speak about that.
Yeah.
But if we use Jesus as the model, he did not hide.
Yeah.
He was humble, but he didn't hide his assignment. He spoke
humble.
about his assignment. He was very bold about his assignment. So humility is not the same thing as hiding.
Yes.
And I think that's where people really don't have the line. They be like, oh, I'm being humble, but you're really playing small.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's easier to come across as if you're humble than to come across as if you're bragging or praising yourself. But sometimes people don't know your worth until you say it.
Yeah.
We cannot assume that everybody knows the value that you bring to the table. Sometimes you have to say it.
Yeah. And really and truly, here's how I want us to look at humility, is agreeing with God about who you are. That's really humility, because it's really appreciating that, listen, I am not just being humble for the sake of people pleasing or based on fear or insecurity. Humility is recognizing that we are called and we have a gifting, and we agree, not shying away or hiding,
Yeah.
which is, I think, a lot of people balance those two or confuse the two. Playing small is denying your worth to stay comfortable or avoid being judged.
Wow.
So are you calling it humility when it's actually fear, insecurity, or people pleasing?
Yeah.
That's really the conversation that
Yeah.
we want to have today. Any thoughts? Any other thoughts?
I and it's easy for us as human beings to want to not appear as if we're a certain way, and it comes back to what you say, people pleasing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people are not comfortable speaking about themselves.
Yeah. Because I think it's rooted in
Yeah.
past behavior
Let
and
somebody
programming.
else say it about you rather than
Yeah.
you saying it.
And I remember having a client, I don't call names, but we were having a conversation, and in just listening to her language, I called her out and I said, listen, I say twice already in our conversation, we had like maybe by that time it was a 30, 45 minute conversation. I said twice already in our conversation, she used a phrase, and I cannot remember what the phrase was, but in essence, it was in essence, I don't want to be too pompous,
Yeah.
or I don't want to sound too pushy.
Yeah.
In essence, she also said, like, I am playing small so I could be safe. And I called her out, and I'm like, what is that all about? Talk to me, because as far as I know, you have a lot that you can own.
Yeah.
She was afraid to put it herself out there. She was afraid to own it. And she admitted it, like, it was based in workplace trauma where people when she started to speak about her value, people would,
Yeah. And then when you
knock
put
it
yourself
down.
out there, when you start to own your worth and put yourself out there, you open up yourself, my friend would say open season, for you to now become a target.
Yeah.
And so that takes another level too
Yeah.
of confidence and guts to be able to do that, because the World Wide Web could be mean.
And so are you willing to play it safe then? So do you say you want to play it safe?
Some people may prefer to just play it safe than have to deal with whatever ramification of being evolved and being big.
And here's the thing, and again, we're pulling it from the Bible, but the story of the talents, that is a story of people the person who played it safe, where did they go? They played it safe and they buried their gift.
Yeah.
They buried the thing that was valuable to them. They did not own it.
Yeah.
They were called what? What were they called? You know the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really appreciating that God does not call us to be safe. He calls us to be stewards of what it is that we're calling. Humility is a posture. Ownership is a responsibility. Owning your value doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you accountable to what it is that you are called to lead.
Yeah.
And so let's now go into what does actually owning your value look like. And I have a couple of definitions here. Number one is recognizing what you carry. Your brilliance is not accidental. You are more competent and you are called. You know your brilliance. You accept the worth of your lived experience, and you refuse to downplay your impact to keep other people comfortable. It's seeing your value through God's eyes. Not culture, not trauma, not other people's filters.
Powerful.
You just
I'm just looking at you because you, and it's because I'm hearing it again for the second time. Like you already preached this to me earlier, and so you're preaching it again. No, but I'm good. I am loving it, and it comes with a level of confidence.
Yeah,
it comes with a level of confidence, and like we were saying earlier when we were talking about the subject, your confidence comes from the things that you would have done, the experiences that you
and we're definitely going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So why should you own your value? I love this one. Because God already did.
Yeah.
Right? You are not, when people hear the term owning value, you're not assigning value to you. You already have value. You're only agreeing with what God already say you are.
Yes. And that's powerful because Bishop Valentino said something Sunday past. He said, purpose is here for the manufacturer's product before the product is put out. So when they're about to build a car, they know the purpose of what they want it to do, how they want the consumers to use this product.
Yeah.
Then they put out the car. They don't put out the car and then trying to figure out its purpose at the same time.
Yes, yes.
So when you own your value, you're actually walking into a purpose that was already designed and created
You're
for you.
agreeing.
And so you're actually agreeing, this is my purpose, this is my gift. I have the gift of teaching. I have the gift of breaking down complex information. I have the gift of dealing with people. And so me owning that is knowing my strength and knowing what value I'm going to give to people. It's not me being arrogant.
And the opposite of it is, here's the thing. If you do not own it, you're being disobedient.
Yeah.
Because you are
You're
going
walking
against
outside
what
of
you
your
have been
purpose.
told you are and your value.
For sure.
So we like to say we're being humble, but are we really being
Yeah.
disobedient in disguise?
You preaching, mama.
Number 2, playing small does not serve anyone. Hiding does not equal to holiness. Oh, Jesus. I'm sorry.
Oh, you want to roll today?
Hiding does not equal holiness. It's another one of those things where I'm going to shrink or I'm going to stay small because I don't want to put myself out there.
Because when you're humble, you're holy. And so it's an appearance. It comes with a look. And so, yeah.
But guess what? It doesn't serve anyone because clients can't find you. So now you're complaining to me as your coach. So the clients can't find you.
Yeah.
Why can't clients
'Cause they
find
don't know
you?
you.
Because you're hiding.
Yeah, they don't know you.
You're hiding.
They don't know your value. They don't know your worth. They don't know what you bring into the table.
They don't know. And then when they say they don't know, or when you put yourself out there finally one time and they say they don't know, you get mad because then you say, oh, people don't want to
Yeah,
invest.
they don't
No,
want
you
the
don't
product.
own your value enough to invest in it. Bosses won't promote you, and partners can support what they do not see.
Wow.
So
So
it
tell me
doesn't
something. How does
serve
it
anyone.
look in a relationship? Because I'm always going to take it back from a relationship standpoint. How does it look about being humble in a
Yeah.
relationship? Don't you want me to be humble? Don't you want me to be holy and pious in the relationship?
See, again, it goes back to what your definition of humility is. We don't want you to hide. I don't want you to hide who you are.
Okay.
It's really, so let's talk about what owning your value is in a relationship, right?
Okay.
So you communicate your needs clearly. You don't shrink to keep the peace. You attract well, this one ain't for us, but some people who looking for partners. You attract partners who match your worth and you keep your standards. The opposite of that is you don't settle for half effort. You don't over function to feel worthy.
Wow.
Which is a big part of it, because you feel as if, okay, I need to overdo and I need to overgive and
overanalyze
in order to feel this way, right? So it's really appreciating that what are those things that are showing up in your relationship and identifying whether you're operating from a place of playing small, humble, or of owning your value.
I'm hearing all this and you're making it sound so easy and it just flowing, but when I'm thinking of it as you speaking and having gone through some of what you have said, it's not an easy thing.
Okay, tell me why.
It really takes some learning. It takes some self-awareness. It takes some self-evaluation. It takes being open to feedback. It's a journey. It's not something that you just wake up with, just this confidence and this owning your value. It takes some time because it's not an easy thing.
And I agree with that. I'm not saying that it's easy.
Yeah.
I don't believe I don't think anything that's worthwhile is easy. I don't think evolution is easy. I don't think change is easy. Now, some people love change, some people, and I think the persons who love change and love growth is because it's now easy for them because they've done it for so long.
Yes.
Even studies and science have proved anything that's growing or changing, there is this, I forget what it's called in teaching, but there is this journey that you go through, the learning curve.
Yes.
It's never going to be easy at the beginning. The question that I have when it gets hard is, are you stuck? Are you going to stop?
Yeah.
And the answer should be no.
Yeah, and I think that's what I want my audience to walk away with. Even though we're saying it may sound easy and it may sound like we are at the place now, but it took a lot of work for us to even own who we are, even own the fact that, because there were one point in time, I would be like, no, I'm not working with you. I'm not working with you because we don't get along when we work together. You are night and I am day.
And what?
Right? You your way of thinking is totally different from mine, and I'm like, no, I can't work with you. However, God was actually trying to get us together for us to let our individual identity blend together to form a beautiful product that we have now. But it took intentionality, it took work, it took pruning, it took getting upset, it took apologizing, it took humility and being humble.
It took humility. But it didn't take hiding.
It didn't take hiding, And if I left it up to you, you would have hid, because you didn't like the confrontation and the drama and the back and forward. And I was ready to lean in, and you were like, "This is too much. This is too much for me." But after we both lean into it and understand, listen, in order for us to walk into purpose, and it comes back to purpose, in order for us to walk into the purpose and into the plan that God designed for our lives, we have to shed some of the me mentality, my way of doing it, how I do it versus how you do it, to how would God want us to do it so we get impact. And the end game is always to how can our life positively impact person? How can our marriage impact persons?
Yeah, I know Glenn is very passionate about the marriage, but I want to bring some business conversation.
Okay, see the night and day. I'm looking at bringing relationship together, and she on business. But go ahead.
Listen, okay.
Go ahead, business.
So,
lady.
what does it look like to own your value in business and in the career? One, you price for profit. You position as an expert. You stop over explaining. You don't have to over explain.
If your price is $1,000, you don't need to go into a dissertation as to why.
Oh Lord, we listen. There's so much I could say about that.
All right, don't say no more. We can move to the next one.
You say no to underpaying opportunities, and you lead with your brilliance. What you don't do is undercharge and overdeliver.
Yeah.
You don't tweak your website instead of marketing, which is the thing. Because you want tweak, you want fix, you want do all of these things, but you're not actually selling, you're not actually marketing. And then you shrink in rooms.
And I want to bring an example in there, because you're the expert of this. Like, you're at the place now. Before you used to do it, everybody called you and you just go, and there's like nothing in it for you. You just was going for going's sake. And now you're at a point where you would say, you know what, no, I this is my price. Or, no, I can't do that for free. I'll do that for maybe even a discounted amount, but I can't just walk up. And you said this is somebody, and I'm going to put it on blast, a couple of weeks ago. You said just to get my makeup done, to get my nails done, my hair fixed, to come and represent at this particular event is going to cost me $400. And so why am I going to just pay $400 to come and give away my gift for free? Which is outside of when we decide we're going to give back.
For ministry, that's a difference. It's a difference line. But it's really appreciating back to owning your value. The value that you bring is worth real money.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
The people can take my knowledge that I've invested a whole lot of money in, thank God for God's grace and all of that, and they could actually create a tangible outcome for themselves.
And don't just celebrate my gift. Compensate my gift. I love it.
You're trying to redo my whole talk. But it's really true. And if you don't own your value in business, your audience will really default to the lowest offer. And there's so much that I could say about that. But it's really being okay with not being like, I saw someone in one of the stores that I shop in recently, and she saw the video that was going around about me talking about owning your value, and she said, Keisha, you're so right. If we expect people to take us seriously, we have to first take ourselves seriously.
Yes.
And that's what we don't want to do, because we're afraid. But if we don't start to take ourselves seriously, then you will be there forever and ever complaining about the same thing over and over with no change.
So we are about to be out of time. So
oh my God!
And I know you're passionate, and I know you have all this that you want to say. Let's take this in and give our audience something to take away. The key point.
All right. So God can't multiply what you hide. If you are hiding your value in any way, shape, or form, it can't be multiplied. So don't expect for you to, go to the world or go be featured or have a greater impact if you are hiding that. And you have to stop using the word humble or humility to, to hide the gifts that you have.
And I would say this because we're really out of time.
Okay.
All right, because you look like you're ready to go into notes.
I have
you
my
probably need to put that for
notes
the next episode. But if I would leave one thing with you as we are about to wrap this session up, I would say, do not, under no circumstance, shrink to please anybody.
Yeah.
And if you don't take yourself seriously, you don't take your values seriously, and you don't take your identity seriously, nobody else is going to take you seriously.
I think that's a good place.
Yes.
When we go to the next episode, we're gonna teach you how to do it. But yeah, I think that's
So until then, we will see you in episode 8. So live
evolved.